Hello, this is Ava from Soul GPS. Welcome to my channel. In this video today, what I wanted to do is talk about setting boundaries with narcissistic and toxic people, and also practicing not taking a blame. And this video was actually inspired by an email that I received from one of my Polish viewers. And I'm not going to read the whole email. It's of course in Polish, so I would need to translate it, and sometimes it doesn't quite come across the right way. So what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of give you the net of the situation and translate to you mostly the questions that I'm going to be addressing in this video, because this video is going to allow, the email is going to allow to put the content of this video into a good context. So this lady writes that she's been watching the videos and she has taken great interest in psychology, and especially when it pertains to dealing with toxic people. And she had observed that back when she was in school, in college, there was a woman, a so-called friend in her vicinity that made it really difficult for her to say no and would lower her sense of self-esteem. And she would always feel less than when in her presence. And she had found that kind of by chance and intuitively, the only thing that has worked in terms of dealing with this person was to avoid them. And her question is that what could she do to stop attracting narcissistic, toxic people into her life? And she wanted to add that she comes from a family in which there was a lack of a sense of safety, and she never received the amount of love that she really needed, which is a critical form of training that makes us susceptible to these kinds of toxic people. And her second question is what to do in order to have a deeper sense to bolster her sense of self-worth. So I would love to address that today in our video. So I have good and bad news for viewers like this lady who wrote the email. So I'll start with the bad news. And the bad news that unfortunately we will always attract toxic people into our life. It is in our very nature. It is because we're hyper empathic. And I'm going to talk about hyper empathy a little later in this video. We're basically people who qualify as partners for toxic takers, for problematic people, because we are very quick to forgive and forget. We put other people's needs first instead of our own. We don't understand the concept of selfishness. To us, it's typically something that has negative connotation. We don't quite understand the idea of setting boundaries, and so on and so forth. So that's the bad news. On a spiritual level, I would also add, or more of a metaphysical level, that because we are typically really good people who want to turn this earth into a better place, we tend to take a lot of the blame for the bad things. We take too much responsibility because we want to set things right. Because we actually are the only people who could set things right. Because we value goodness and positivity and bringing in light above all else, oftentimes above ourselves. So we are the kinds of people of principle who will live and die in the name of something. So that makes us perfect targets for those who don't have that, people who lack empathy, who lack conscience. They're fascinated by the way we carry ourselves. They are fascinated by this, and they always will hone in on the weaknesses in order to sink their hooks in our soul and pull us closer and closer, because we're also wounded. And it's not that only empaths are wounded. All people are wounded in one way or another. None of us had perfect childhoods. We're living in a world that is very complex. It's a combination of things. And oftentimes what happens when we're young and we experience trauma is it creates a deep disintegration of our psyche. And then through a process of reward and punishment, we learn to banish certain parts of ourselves away and built up others. And usually the ones we build up are the ones that end up serving other people's interests, not our own. And the ones we banish are really some of our greatest gifts that feel threatening to abusers and toxic people. So that's kind of the state of the world. That's the reality. The reality is we're always going to attract those people. But the power is really, truly in our hands. The power is in our hands. It is up to us what we do with these people. And there are certain things you can do, and there are two elements, primary elements that I want to share with you that you can do to excise negativity and toxicity from your life as soon as you recognize it. The first thing is time. The second thing is boundaries. And I'm going to spend more time in this video talking about boundaries because it's, again, very misunderstood concept, or it's very vague, and, people just say, oh, just set boundaries, just say no. And it's like, okay, well, how do I learn to do that? It has to come from a deeper place, from a place of conviction. There are things inside us that need to be set right first, things in our thinking. And that's what I want to focus on in this video. But first, real quick, time. Yeah. So time. We need to give ourselves some patience and get to know the person we're interacting with. And if you are anything like me, or 99% of my clients, or, the people who write me, we all make the same mistake. We all fall for the same trap. And that is the trap of fantasizing and attributing positive value where there really is none. So this is what the narcissist, the manipulator, the toxic person will do, is they're going to, through either a process of interviewing and asking the right questions, they're going to sniff out what it is that we want, what it is that we need. They hone in right on the wound, usually by first telling you their own sad story and seeing, how will you respond to that sad story? Will you share your own? And typically we do. We mirror each other, right? That's how we relate. We mirror. So you hear their sad story, they see, oh, you care. Now you're going to share your sad story, so now they know what it is that you're looking for. Are you looking for warmth, kindness, this? So they will start to commiserate. They will tell you that here you will be seen and heard at the same time. You will seen and heard, and therefore you'll start to feel bonded and connected to that person. And because of how imaginative most of us are, that stems from dissociation. From the time when we were little and we were traumatized, we learned to dissociate, which is go into a fantastic fairy tale world with our minds, rather than to deal with the very painful reality, because we didn't have the tools to deal with it. That's the reason why. It's not our fault. And we can actually use our imagination towards something really positive. That's another video, that's another topic. But that's what we do, is we inject our fantasy and our idea of who this person could be for us into the relationship. And that's when the trance begins. That's when the veils drop. That's when we stop seeing this person who they really are, and instead we see them for who we want them to be. And that's the first mistake. So step number one is give yourself time and patience to really observe, like a scientist observes an experiment, to observe this person and who they really are. So you can also feel your intuition kick in, your body telling you, and it might kick in very quickly. It might tell you, oh, something just feels really wrong. That story doesn't add up. They're just too nice. It's too good to be true. It's too much. It's too quick. That's a sign for you to step back and just observe and just wait and breathe and interact with other people. That's another thing. It's like, don't put all your eggs into one basket when creating friendships, when dating people. You want to have a variety of interactions, so you can also compare and contrast and can get to know each other through your relations and relatings. So that's step one. Give yourself time. Now, step two is set those boundaries, right? So, okay, how do we set those boundaries? There are actually, I have written 6 steps here. So I'm going from my Polish notes, so pardon me if I take a moment here to think, to translate. I've been usually doing it the other way around. I first record in English, and then I translate into Polish, which has been not the easiest thing because I lost so much of my Polish vocabulary. Now I'm doing it the reverse, and it's a very interesting process. I don't know how people can speak 5, 7, 8 languages. I'm barely able to handle 2, but this has been a great practice for me to do the video in 2 languages. So, okay, let's look at boundaries. So number 1, and this really ties in well with the question that this lady posed in her email to me, and that is, how do I elevate my self-worth? So self-worth is the first place where you want to start. Is feel your worthiness. Know that you are worthy, because that is the truth. It's not a belief. You don't need to believe it. You need to know it, because that is what's real. Everyone has infinite, boundless, eternal sense of worth. Just by the fact that your heart is beating, that you're breathing, that you're here, means that you're worthy. You bring with you infinite potential of gifts you can bring into this world. If you have helped one person ever, if you smiled at someone, if you held someone's hand, if you gave someone a compliment, if you were there for them when they were having a hard time, you already brought your worth. You already proven your worth. All you need is do it once. That's already an extra. That's already a bonus. We're all worthy and we're all equal in that worth. So you have to remember that, and you have to feel that, and you have to carry yourself knowing this very, very deeply. Step number 2 is you need to know what your needs and wants are. And this is tricky, and this is going to take some time, because this has gotten muddled over the years, because you've been taught and trained to put other people's needs and desires first. And I know that this is something that I've been doing most of my life, which has brought me to conclude that I have actually lived 75% or more of my life, mostly thinking about how other people will respond to what I do, to what I to what I say, and sometimes to also what I think. And that's something I actually talked about in my video on manipulative strategies of the narcissist. I did a series recently, and this one I think was number 4, and I talked about layering, about how this one partner I was with instilled within me this deep sense, and I was really young. I was like 19 when this all started, and he was a hypnotherapist. He instilled within me the conviction that he could read my mind. So I had to censor my mind. I had to always have the best thoughts about him, because the moment I noticed that something was wrong, I was already feeling guilty. So you need to make a list and really spend some time thinking about what it is that you want from a friendship, from an acquaintance, from a relationship at work, from a partnership. And your partner is the most important person in your life besides you. So that person ought to be really, really there for you. And you want to give yourself some time preparing for this relationship, for creating it. You know, not fall for the first person that shows up on your path, making you feel like, oh my God, they're going to be the solution to all of your aches and problems. No, these aches and problems, by the way, probably are not even yours to begin with. So you're solving transgenerational problems you have inherited from your family or somebody who has put their shit on you. So I pardon the words in case if there are any kids watching, but I've gotten better at this. I used to swear a lot in my videos, but it's a heavy topic, right? It's a heavy topic. So you need to learn to talk to yourself, take walks with yourself, write in your journal, and really get in touch with how you feel and what you want. I just recently started to get in touch with what my needs and wants are. You know, and I'm in my late 30s, but it's never too late. Even if you're in your 80s, do it just as soon as you can. So now I know that what I need from a partnership is I need warmth, I need love, I need affection, I need openness, I need honesty, I need truth. I need a sense of safety and security. Before that, I used to be almost ashamed of my needs. I would be like, no, I don't really have any needs. I'm the cool girlfriend, you know, I'm the perfect girlfriend because I have no needs. I just go with the flow, you know, but it was a lie. I was living a complete lie. That's not true. I do have needs, and so do you. And the sooner you get in touch with what those needs are, the better for you. The sooner that you know what your desires are, the better it is for you, because then you can learn to align those desires with those of other people. And of course, a narcissist is going to pretend that they have the same needs and desires and all that. Hence, you revert back to all the other strategies, such as giving them time and really observing, because oftentimes their actions will not align with their words. And that comes up within the first 90 days of knowing them. So you want to know your needs and wants. Number 3 is you want to make a list. First, you can write it down, but then make a mental list and go over it often, of the kind of values and behaviors that people show that you will not tolerate, whether it is lying, whether it is talking crap about others behind their back, whether it is cheating, whether it is saying one thing and doing the other. It's a lack of integrity, whether it is putting blame on other people, guilting them, using all sorts of manipulations. If you're watching this video and if you've been following me or other great coaches that are there out there on the web talking about this topic, you're probably quite well versed already in some of the red flags that to look out for. But you need to really draw a line. We're talking about zero tolerance policy. If you observe that, you take a big step back and you're like, you know what? This person may just not qualify as somebody who I want to bring into my inner circle. Be very discerning, because this is how you leave room for other people to enter. Because relationships take a lot of time and energy to nurture. And that when you're dealing with somebody toxic, now you're talking about your whole life being consumed by them, instead of you working on your own dreams and aspirations and development and growth. I mean, that just takes a lot of time. If you have kids, if you have family, if you have a job, if you have a career, they're going to suck all of that out of you. So make a list and really stick to it. It's going to elevate your sense of self-esteem. It's going to elevate your sense of self-worth, right? Now we're talking about a different kind of worth. So there is an intrinsic unconditional worth that I talked about in the beginning, that you possess and nothing can change it. And then there's your market worth. There's your value that you project by the way you are. These are conditional upon external circumstances, but they do not diminish your true worth. They will change. Like, there are certain things you can work on, such as this. You're watching this video because you want to better your life. You want to better your relationships. That is great, and that's dynamic, and that's changing. And that's a good thing, because life is all about change and evolution, right? So don't feel bad about the fact that you're not perfect, because such thing as perfection doesn't exist. Feel great about the fact that you're working on yourself and you're taking steps towards a better life and better relationships. It all starts with you. So know this. So you want to make a list and you want to repeat it and you want to stick to it. Okay. Number 4 is have your eyes wide open. So here we're talking about the red flags, right? Remember those things. Remember those things, repeat them to yourself, and really observe people. It is very, very important. Now we're talking about number 5. This is crucial, is to learn to express your feelings and your thoughts and how you feel. And I quickly want to say number 6, and I want to talk about 5 and 6 because they really tie well together. Number 6 is trust your intuition. Trust what your body is telling you. So this is crucial. Here's something that I learned that was extremely toxic, extremely negative and destructive thing that I learned, and I would repeat that in my relations with people. And I would always wonder, why do things turn out the way that they do? This is where I needed to take responsibility. And that's the greatest lesson, and I want to really share it with you because it's such a cool tool. And the tool is, whenever you feel, whether it's in the pit of your stomach, which is where my wounds are, majority of my wounds, it could be your heart. Some people feel it here, they just feel heaviness. Some people feel it in their head and they just something just wrong, I can't think suddenly. Wherever you feel your intuition is screaming at you to tell you something's wrong, immediately say it. Immediately let that person know, I'm feeling X, Y, Z. Don't stuff your pain. Don't ignore your feelings for the sake of the other person because you don't want to rock the boat, because you're afraid of losing them, because you're afraid of what they're going to say or think about you. That is the biggest mistakes that empaths make. sensitive people make. And a word on sensitive. What does sensitive mean? It has such a negative connotation, I feel, in psychology sometimes, especially when we talk about this, like, oh, you're too sensitive. You just, you take things too personally. You're too sensitive. But when you really break the word down, sensitive is about senses. It's about being really tuned in with your senses, which means that you get the information faster than the average person because your senses are telling you what's going on. So you want to listen to that. That's your intuition talking to you. And so whenever you feel the feeling like you're talking to somebody and, you just like, you feel like things are just not adding up, or you feel like you have a partner and they're just ignoring your needs all the time. They're being frigid. They're turning their back on you. They're lying to you. Say it. Learn to stand up for yourself and don't be afraid of losing them. Of course, if you're with somebody who's extremely abusive and you know what they're going to do, you don't even need to get into that, because it's like, it's not going to serve you. It's not going to lead to a solution because you've tried it so many times and always ends up hurting you. But especially in new relationships, as you're beginning to form them, speak your truth. Don't hold back. And don't worry about what that other person's going to think about you. Let them deal with that. Learn to be assertive. Learn to be truthful. So I want to make a note, as I said in the beginning, about hyper-empathy. This is something that makes you stand in other people's shoes way too often. And you definitely don't want to do that, especially if you're dealing with an abuser. It is okay to be hyper-empathic and use that gift because it is a gift, although it's kind of a gift that's coming, like it's a little bit too much. You want to learn to temper that. But when it comes to, say, raising a child, you want to feel what that child feels so that you can figure out what it is that they need. Or when it comes to helping somebody who's ill or who's unable to communicate with you the way that the average person can. So in those cases, it's great to have that because you're putting your needs behind you and you're just really there for somebody else. You're saving them from, a disease, death, an accident, something. But when you're dealing with somebody who's really abusive or a dynamic or like a relationship dynamic that's really abusive, and you know this because you've been through the cycle many times, you do not want to be hyper-empathic. You want to stay grounded in you. So now I want to actually give you 5 steps in this video to continue a little bit longer. What can you do to unlearn or temper this hyper-empathy? Number 1 is learn to think about you and put yourself first. So this comes back to the needs. You really need to know what your needs are in every situation. I don't mean only like, okay, here are my needs for this relationship. What are your needs now? And then what are your needs an hour later? And then what are your needs tomorrow? Do you know what I mean? It's like you want to stay really in touch with that all the time. You never want to let this go. You always want to know. You always want to stay connected. Number 2 is you want to really anchor yourself in your body, in your feelings, and in your self-awareness. And again, this is something to create a continuum. And you need to put your needs first. You need to put what you need right now and what you feel right now as at the utmost importance. Unless, again, house is burning, something's on fire, but other than that, you want to really stay in tune with that. Number 3 is don't be afraid of losing something, of losing someone that doesn't measure up to your expectations. So you need to also know what your expectations are. That's another thing that has a really bad rap in our world. It's like, oh no, I don't have any expectations. Sorry, BS, you do, and you should. And you got to be really clear about this with another person so that we can have healthy relations. So if you've been through this before with this person and you know that they are not going to serve you in that way, then there's no ability to create the equality of give and take. And you don't want to be afraid of that afraid of losing that by not speaking out, because it's only going to get worse, right? And you're going to be taken advantage of at some point. Number 4 is have a little bit of faith in yourself and your abilities, and also celebrate your achievements and what you have already done. This is something that comes up a lot when I work with people who are in transition, whether it's in between relationships, whether it's they're about to take a jump, maybe a career jump, or something big that they're dealing with and they're really afraid. And the fear is natural because we fear the unknown. That's natural. That's hardwired into our brain for safety. But in those moments, look back, look behind you, and notice how far you've come. And know that you're going to be okay. So cut the negative dialogue of telling yourself, no, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not good enough for this or this. That doesn't serve you. Tell yourself, yes, you can do this. You are good enough. And you trust in your own ability that you'll be able to figure this out. And then number 5 is, don't worry so much about how other people will react to your truth. These are their lessons. So speak your truth, especially if you belong to this group of empathic, good people who really want to bring positivity into this world. There's no other way we can do this. If we're going to remain silent and not fight for a right to speak out, then the world is just going to keep getting worse and worse. It is our responsibility to stand up for what we know is right and defend it. So our life is always going to serve us with lessons, with tests, with challenges, and it's going to be in the form of putting different people on our path or situations. And it's unavoidable because we live in a very complex world. But if you learn to separate your sense of deep inner sense of self-worth, from all the external things that are passing, you're going to grow your immunity that will really help you to deal with things that just are not that important, things that are negative, things that are like gossip, like abuse, like toxicity. Of course, I'm not saying that abuse isn't important to deal with, but you're not going to let it affect you as deeply, and you will be able to just say no to it and walk away from people who are abusive rather than staying in those circumstances. So, and also it's going to make you immune to criticism, and other people trying to bring you down. It's like this woman who wrote the email to me. She's really concerned about what these people do to us. Learn to avoid those people. That's the best way to really deal with it. But also, don't let this affect your sense of self-worth, because you can't diminish it. No matter what happens, it's infinite, it's boundless, and it's always yours. So every situation brings with it some form of a lesson, and your task is to understand what that lesson is and to discover it, so that you can become that much more free to truly be you. And that's an amazing gift. And I wish this gift to you. I hope that this video was helpful. And now you have a little bit of a clearer sense about setting boundaries. And I encourage you and invite you to share your thoughts and questions below. And of course, I wish you all the best on your journey, returning to yourself and your self-healing. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.